Nurse.org and Major League Sports teams are honoring nurses with discounted game tickets and once-in-a-lifetime experiences. From throwing the first pitch to riding the Zamboni to on-court recognition, join the fun. Visit nurse.org/nurse night to find a nurse appreciation event near you and grab your discounted tickets today.
The Love and Leary Podcast is where nursing leadership, innovation, and real talk come together. Hosted by nurse leaders Marion Leary
and Rebecca Love.
The show dives into the issues that matter most to today's nursing community.
Each episode features candid conversations, expert insights, and bold perspectives on healthcare, leadership, advocacy, and the future of nursing. Whether you're a clinical nurse, nurse leader, or another healthcare changemaker, Love and Leary offers thoughtful dialogue and practical takeaways to inform, inspire, and empower nurses at every stage of our careers.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Love and Leary Podcast. Today, we are so excited to have as our guest, Katie Boston-Leary of the American Nurses Association, who recently, the actions of the ANA to advocate and move forward issues pertinent to the United States, as well as nurses as it intersects at the points of democracy, humanity, and human health, are at the forefront of shaping some of the greatest narratives to go on in nursing history across the country. We are so excited to have you join us, Katie.
I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
So, Katie, we'd love for you to share a little bit about the work that ANA is doing, both in the wake of the horrific events that happened in Minneapolis this past weekend, but also, recently the president of ANA spoke out about how advocacy, political advocacy, is nursing's lane. And so we'd love to hear a little bit about this shift now in the ANA to really push for nurses to be advocates.
Yeah, thank you for that, Marion. I'll say that it's not a new shift for us, but I think we're becoming more vocal about it. And the time calls for that. We're not looking for any armchair activists. We're looking for people to rise up and assume their rightful place in nursing, to speak up and act up on what's happening right now. So we're following suit. And it's not just about saying, but doing. And we're leaning in and we're saying that this is not right. Our gospel that we adhere to is our code of ethics. And our code of ethics makes it very clear about where we should be with all these things that are happening. Because of that, and the fact that we have our highest governing body and our stakeholders, which are state leaders who also represent nurses around the country, are saying, lean in, go in, be more forceful, be more bold. Here we are. And sometimes hard times calls for strong leadership. So that's what we're doing. And we're not falling back. We're not shying away. We're pushing forward.
And, I would love for you to talk a little bit about the petition that the ANA put out and some of the calls for action over this past week. And
regarding to the Alex Pretti situation of what happened in Minnesota, this was a very big, bold moment in time. You were one of the fastest organizations to take a national stance on this. But tell us a little bit about that petition and what you're calling for and what nurses need to be paying attention to.
Oh, absolutely. So we, like everyone else, saw what happened to Alex Pretti. We were alarmed, and we're past the point of thoughts and prayers. So we knew that we were not going to send a message about, we're saddened, we hope, let's reflect. It was really about how we're going to stand tall during this time. So we had one public statement go out, a position statement go out. We got feedback on it. And the feedback from a lot of our key stakeholders was needs to be stronger. So that's what we did. And true to form, when we do put out a lot of statements, we want to put a call to action out. And that call to action is a petition. And we put out a petition out, which is a shorter version of the petition that we know that Nurses Shift Change put out. But it's really because we wanted the data to back up a lot of the work that we do. So when we do our pounding pavement work, when it comes to Capitol Hill and everything everywhere else, we can say, here are our numbers. So the petition is really about how we need for Congress to act, for them to be mindful of the efforts that they're taking and the impact that it has not only on nurses, but in healthcare and society. The fact that human rights are very important with everything that we do. So all those things is what we made sure we captured in the petition. And we made sure that the statement that we had was strong enough not to necessarily create new enemies, even though we kind of did, because there are a lot of people in nursing that said, hey, stay in your lane, nurses. And it's like, nursing was founded in the struggle. Like, it became a profession because of advocacy, and it's going to have to stay a profession because of advocacy. It's not going to stay the way it needs to be because we're all just here. It's kind of like, what we do. Yeah, when we go through these large structures like bridges that are and tunnels that are underwater, it's like somebody built that. That was somebody's vision. It didn't just happen. And it was the same thing with nursing. We get to enjoy it, but somebody said, this is a profession. It's not just a title you just give to anybody because they're in servitude. So we have to make sure people understand that. And that's what we're trying to push for, not just with what happened recently, but even with the professional degree issue that we have on the table.
You're absolutely right. And we so appreciate that because history, I think people forget that history, it was nurses who also got involved in the women's rights movement.
Suffrage movement, civil rights movement. Absolutely.
Exactly. All of these were led by nurses. And we might not talk about them. And it sounds to me like we really need to bring that back because to your point, nursing has always stood on the moments of history where it matters and stood on the right side of history to fight for things. So your points are absolutely right. And I think, you just brought up this point. Marion and I were discussing it. We can't help but feel this is an interesting timing that right after the ANA puts out this letter that most nursing associations in the country are taking a national stance on this issue to address issues of what happened in Minnesota. They decide to release the Department of Education letter that does not include nursing as a professional degree, which will block nurses from accessing professional degree loans at the level of other professions in the country. This, to me, seems like a direct further elevation of why it is so critical that nurses need to be involved at this moment in time, using their voices and advocating right now at this time more so than ever before. But tell us a little bit about this, because Marion and I and you, we've been paying attention to this issue, but what is the impact for nurses who don't understand what's going on at the Department of Education in this reclassification?
Yeah, and you just said it all, by the way, Rebecca, you did. But the key thing is, we have to make sure we understand, again, this is where if we fall short and we stand back, these are the things that impact us. And you go, what happened? It's because we didn't act. We have data that shows that there are so many nurses that did not even vote. Like, what is that? Mm-hmm. So there are all these things. And I always tell people, particularly people in politics, if you want to know the shortcomings and shortfalls in society or in communities, sit in an emergency room for an hour. It all shows up there. If you don't have a place to live, if you don't have insurance, like all the other things socially that are bereft, those patients or those people show up in emergency rooms. So that's why we have to assume our rightful place and really act. And with this professional degree issue, I honestly think it goes back to the thinking and the perceptions and the stereotypes about who nurses are. And there's a belief that nurses only are supposed to be at the bedside. They're all female, they're all young, and they're all looking for husbands. Like, that is the impression. And if men are in the profession, they're there because, they're probably gay or they couldn't get through medical school. We have to dispel all of those myths. Nursing is a body where we're not just comforters holding hands for patients and at the bedside. We're scientists, we're advocates, they're in Homeland Security. I mean, the list goes on and on. I remember years ago, there was a nurse that I met in Colorado that told me, she said, Katie, we need to talk about nurses in space. And I thought space was an acronym for something, and I kind of didn't pay any attention. And then the next day, her name is Robin. She ended up doing a presentation prior to mine. And she was actually talking about getting the first nurse into space. And then I said, oh yeah, that is the thing. Like, we've never had a nurse in space, and she's working diligently to make sure that happens. And the first person she's eyeing to do that, her name is Star, which makes sense. So we have to make sure we dispel a lot of the stereotypes about who nurses are, because this professional degree issue, I wholeheartedly believe it's steeped in that. We, ANA, provided them enough information for them. We're going to give them grace to say they didn't know.
If you've read the ruling so far, the proposed wording in it, it really does seem like they do not have any sense of what nurses do and how we practice. And so, which is why I think, again, to all the things we've been talking about, encouraging nurses to please use your voice, and use your voice right now to comment. The open public comment period is up. It goes through March 2nd. They need to hear from nurses. They need to hear from patients and community members on why and how this is going to affect the profession. The term professional aside, the implications for financial aid, for nurses advancing their degrees, for students entering the nursing profession, knowing that they won't be financially supported in the future, it all has an impact to a profession that is already so deeply impacted.
Yes. And Marion, may I say also, we won't have anybody to teach these folks.
Right.
Because for you to be in academia, you need an advanced degree.
Hey nurses, looking for exclusive discounts? Nurse.org has you covered with deals on everything. Save big on the essentials you need to excel in your career. Don't miss out. Visit nurse.org/discounts for the latest discounts made just for you.
The University of Michigan did a great study on this that showed the impact of this policy on pre-licensure students and post-licensure. And it was pretty alarming. And what we have to put down in terms of, because I've seen some of the public comments about the fact that, well, it's because they want to be called doctors and all that. And it's like, what is this, right? We have to make sure people see us for all that we are, all the places that we can be seen, all the work that we do, and how I strongly believe, where nurses go, society goes. If we all took this on and did our due diligence, did our work, we can turn the tide on what's happening in society right now.
Katie, I have to tell you, I am just so glad you're here. Honestly, I also have to give a shout out. For the first time in my 20 years of being a nurse, your actions inspired me to become a member of the American Nurses Association because you stand for something that I am proud of and are taking action and leadership. So when I just accolades to you guys on that, it moved me to just a belief. And I just want to give credit where credit's due to your guys' leadership for doing this. And we're here, Marion and I, championing everything that you guys are doing on and making these things happen. But Katie, tell us, for people that need to know about the ANA, the nurses out there that are thinking, should I get involved? How do I get involved? How can I make an impact with the ANA, as opposed to just feeling like, hey, I just joined a membership that has, hundreds of thousands of nurses of people in it. How can they get involved and feel like they're being part of this? And what would you tell nurses today, even if they're not members of the ANA?
Absolutely. Let's start with that. So when I go out and I'm doing my speaking engagements and talks, I never start with be a member. I never have a QR code to say sign up here or sign up sheets. I never do. I really prefer the work to speak for itself. I just talk plainly about the work that we're doing and what we struggle with, because we would like to honestly believe that because of our code of ethics and a lot of things that we know is right, to be on the right side of history, all nurses are swimming in the same direction, but we do have people who think differently. I mean, think about the band of people that are anti-vaxxers that are nurses, right? So unfortunately, that's where we are. So I really talk about the cause and what we need to do and how we need to be better and how our power is in our cohesiveness. And we need to unify around certain things where it should be undeniably something that bans us. And this professional degree issue is one. Like, out of all the issues, this is the one that we can all stand behind. And in terms of being engaged, you don't have to be a member to sign on to RNAction.org to reach out to, and we make it easy for you to get in touch with your state representatives and your federal and our federal lawmakers to say, hey, this is what I'm doing. This is what we're working on. This is what I need from you. We need to be heard. When I go out, I talk about how waste management has more of a presence on Capitol Hill than nurses do. Why is that? So we have to make sure that we understand our places. And the other thing, too, there's policy work that happens locally, too. There's policy work that can happen in the institutions that you work. There are a lot of institutions where care is delivered that has legislative breakfast meetings with local politicians and lawmakers. Understand that, what their focus is. If you work in an institution, ask the question that almost every one of them has a government affairs office. Understand what their imperatives are, what their key policies are, that where they'll like to advance, and what they're advocating for. So, and see how it aligns with what you do. Like, that's a level of engagement that we're looking for. We have an advocacy arm that we need to flex, that we've not flexed over the years, that we need to do more so than ever before.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I do talks about advocacy and activism in nursing, and we don't need people to do everything. but we need you to do something. There are so many ways, like you just said, to advocate for patients, communities within your institution, outside of your institution, whatever you're comfortable with. It makes a difference. And so getting more nurses involved and feeling like they can move the needle, I think that's why we were all so excited to see the ANA take this stance this past week. And I was really excited to see the article from Jennifer Kennedy, making sure that nurses know that political advocacy is our lane, because it is.
It is. And it's not just for professional organizations. It's right. Local. It's right under your feet. I remember early in my career as a new leader, and I was overseeing the emergency department, and we were having issues with people that were unhoused, particularly the children that would come in, and they would come in clearly with failure to thrive diagnoses like, underweight, unclean and things like that. And the team was concerned because these kids would keep coming through with their parents over and over again. And they would make calls to Child Protective Services to come and intervene to understand the plight of these children. And we would not hear anything. So after a number of cycles, and we had one patient that almost died, pediatric patient, we decided to raise the alarm with our local officials, say, what's going on with our county Child Protective Services? Like and there was so much defensiveness, and our local councilman called a meeting for us at the state capitol. We had a face-to-face meeting. It wasn't pleasant, but we got to some policy just from that action. And that's just from nurses saying, a kid's going to show up dead soon if we don't do something. So that's the type of action that we need to take. Like we don't have to accept things for the way they are. Understand why they are the way they are and how policy can impact and improve things so that you can provide the best care that you can provide as a nurse. That's what we are.
Yeah, I love that. And I want to mention the Report for Duty rally that's happening in DC on May 7th. This is where we want nurses to come together, show up, show our collective power, use our collective voices. And so, I will be there. I don't know if either of you are going, but it's being put on by Nurses Shift Change. And I think it's going to be a really great day to show the power of nursing. So, Katie, thank you so much for joining us and talking about these issues. I want to put up the RN Action site one more time. If you haven't gone to this site, sign their petition. You can call your lawmakers. They make it so super easy. These are all really quick, easy things we can do as nurses to help move things forward. Thank you, Katie.
Thank you. And thanks for being an example to all the nurses out there on what they need to do during this time.
Katie, I have to tell you, we know it's going to take all of us. Rowing together, a rising tide raises all boats, but more importantly, that people see others like us out there speaking out, because silence is not an option. And the truth is, nurses have never been silent. They've tried to silence us, and they have, across history, they have tried to stop this profession from taking the center stage of where it needs to be. And what I would say, and what I am just so thrilled to see happen for the first time in my nursing career, this feels like a time where nursing is uniting, it's moving, and everyday nurses are paying attention. And that is what we need. We need them out there voting, we need them out there speaking, we need them out there engaged. So thank you to showing up and being part of our first real releases of the Love and Larry podcast with Nurse.org. Katie, this is a huge big deal. Yeah, as I said, it's a really big deal for us, and we can't wait to get the world to see you and learn more about everything you guys are doing. So, Marion.
Thank you very much, and we'll be back with more episodes. So thanks for following. Thanks for listening to the Love and Leary podcast. We hope this conversation sparked new ideas, challenged your thinking, and reminded you of the power nurses have to lead change.
If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it. You can find more episodes and join the conversation wherever you do your podcast listening.